Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, I'm going to briefly explain what sequences are. Sequences are used to manage auto increment columns. That is, columns that have auto increments on them. This is usually identified with ID columns that have to be unique. We are going to look at our sample database and see the sequences that have been created for that database. Please log into your PG Admin 4. I've already logged in, and select the option for the sample database, which is DVD rental. Click on the plus sign to expand it. And if we expand it further, go to where the schemas are, expand the schema, and we should see the sequences. This database has 13 sequences. So let me expand that to see. So these are the various sequences that have been created for this database. So let me take a look at one of them so we can see how sequences actually works. Normally when you create sequences, you can see the naming convention. You have to name it with the underscore. You have to have a SEQ to indicate that it is a sequence. So let me click on this one here, the first one here, actor underscore actor ID sequence. So obviously there's a table here called actor, and that table, there's been a sequence created for that table. So I'm going to right click on this one here and select the properties. So if we go to the property, it tells you what the name of the sequence is. If we look at the definition, it tells you normally when you create a sequence, you have to set a maximum value. So here, this is a maximum value, and it tells you here, this is the current value for this sequence. So for example, if I was to insert another data into this into this table, and I use the ID, it will increase it by 1. So it will now turn that into 201. So it's a column that auto increases. So if I insert a record for, say, actor ID, it will automatically change that value to 201. So let's look at the security on that. Nothing special. Look at the SQL, nothing has changed. So I'm going to cancel that, and I'm going to see if I can create a script. If you want to create a sequence, this is the syntax. You just click on create sequence, and it gives you the option. You have to name the sequence, the owner, the schema, and then you have to define the sequence. You specify the increment. How is the sequence going to increase? Is it going to increase by 1, by 2, and so on? So these are all the parameters you set when you create a sequence. So I'm going to right click and go where it's got create script. I'm just going to create the script. This is a script that would generate for you if you want to create a sequence. So let me just break it down a bit so you can see. So this is what the sequence looks. This is basically how you create a sequence. This is the SQL for it. You start with the word create sequence, and then this public here indicates the schema, which is this schema here, and this here is the name of the sequence, okay, which is actor underscore actor ID sequence. The sequence will increase by 1. So if you want to insert records into a table called actor, that sequence, the ID column, will automatically increase to the next value. If, for example, the first record that you created has an ID of 1, the sequence will, when you create another record, the sequence will automatically give it an ID of 2, and so on. And this increment means it increases by 1. So if you add another record, that record will assume the next value. For example, if the record is 4, it will assume 5. The next added will be 6, and so on. Also here, notice that it says start 200, which means that the current record for that table is 200. That means there are 200 records in that table. So if I was to add another record, it will increase by 1. That means the next record will now be 201. So there's an increment value, there's a minimum value, and this is the maximum value, which is the amount of sequences that can be created. This is the value of the, and then you have a cache. Normally you can have a sequence in cache and use that. All right, so it tells you who owns the sequence, and if you want to alter and make modifications, you can use the alter sequence command to make modifications. So this here basically is the query you use to create a sequence. So it's basically the same thing as when you write, if you do create sequence, and in the definition, all this here listed here is basically what this SQL is doing. Sequences are useful also in a live production environment. If you've got several people updating the same record or adding new records, you don't want the records to be out of sync. So by using a sequence for a column, when one adds a record, it automatically, attaches a sequence value and increases that record. So sequences are quite useful to keep records in sync. So that's it for this lecture on sequences. Many thanks for watching. Bye for now.